All right. We're now live. Just give me a few seconds. Double check lang natin yung sounds kung okay. Okay. Check. Gumagana na. So, nagkaroon ng technical difficulties in the initial post. So, we're doing it again. We're doing it live dito sa Fantasy Basketball PH with Papi Roy. This is your
Episode number 1.
Yup, episode number 1 po natin. And before I go to our episode, papakilala muna tayo. My name is Roy. You can call me Papi Roy because I'm the fantasy basketball papi. I'll be hosting this podcast season long. Hanggat may basketball, merong Papi Roy. Alright. Ngayon, I'm gonna discuss a little bit about the podcast itself. So we created this podcast. I created this podcast because I really do believe that we as Filipinos, we are really obsessed with basketball. And then fantasy basketball is something na hindi pa big dito sa Pilipinas. So the goal is hopefully maging avenue ang Fantasy Basketball PH para makilala ang fantasy basketball sa Pinas. Para lahat tayo mag-enjoy kasi napakasaya maglaro ng fantasy. Plus, hindi lang yan ang i-discuss natin dito sa Fantasy Basketball PH. We're also going to discuss everything about basketball. Maybe it's NBA discussion, NBA analysis. In terms of fantasy, andyan yung mga projections, andyan yung mga strategies. So, you'll have fun and you'll be expecting a lot kapag finalo nyo at nag-subscribe kayo dito sa podcast namin sa Fantasy Basketball PH. Ito na ang bago nating paboritong sports podcast. With that said, umpisahan na natin ang episode number 1. We're gonna discuss the top 10 Dynasty ranking for the 2020 rookie draft. So, ang background nito is I've analyzed both fantasy value and reality value. So, I came up with the top 10 among all of the rookies that were drafted. And then, sasabihin ko sa inyo yung mga value. So, if you're playing Dynasty drafts, or redrafts, magiging malaking tulong to para magkaroon kayo ng idea kung saan nyo i-draft or ano ang value ng mga rookies nito. Kasi I guess, even in international, wala pa masyadong rankings or wala pa masyadong analysis about this draft class. That's why, unang-una na ang Basketball Podcast PH dyan. So, subaybayan nyo kung anong kakalabasan ng top 10 na to. Pero bago yan,
Honorable mentions.
so meron tayong mga iilang honorable mention. Start start tayo kay Denny Avdia from the Washington Wizards. Highly touted tong rookie na to eh. Actually, ang alam ng lahat hindi to lalagpas ng top 5. So, bakit wala siya sa top 10 ng ranking ko? Unang-una, hindi kasi okay yung position niya as of the moment sa Washington because Washington have someone they call the Japanese sensation, Rui Hachimura. Almost similar ng laro nila aside from the playmaking. Tapos pareho pa sila ng position. So malaking hurdle to kay Denny para magkaroon ng value in terms of fantasy as well as in reality. Kaso undeniable kasi yung may offer niya. He is someone that can be a playmaker in the front court. Somewhat like a smaller or more agile Nikola Jokic. Pero somewhat similar lang. masyadong malakas. Magaling si Nikola Jokic kasi itong si Deni Avdija medyo so-so lang yung offense saka defense niya, eh. Yun yung medyo problema natin kay Deni. Kaya nandito lang siya sa honorable mentions. Next would be Isaac Okoro. Si Isaac Okoro was picked early by Cleveland. Hindi ako masyado believe kasi sa ma-o-offer ni Isaac Okoro, eh. In reality, he could be a great defender. Ang problema, even in fantasy, even in reality, mababa kasi kumuha ng usage si Okoro. Medyo mababa din yung offense capability niya. Kaya nga per 40 minutes, ang projected na points lang niya is 16 points. Imagine that. So, nakakatakot i-pick si Okoro dahil baka maging MKG 'to. Sa mga nakakaalala kay Michael Gilchrist, picked by the Charlotte Hornets. Specialty ni Jordan na pumik ng mga kakaiba before. So, nakakatakot na baka maging katulad ni Isaac Okoro maging katulad ni MKG si Okoro. Thing is, maganda ang positioning niya sa Cleveland kasi wala namang ibang SF sa Cleveland, eh. So, aside from Cedi Osman na I don't think would be the future SF of Cavs, solong-solo ni Okoro ang number 3 position ng Cavs. That's why andito siya sa honorable mentions. Next would be Tyrus Maxi ng Philadelphia. Isa 'to sa mga solid na pick. Sa mga post namin dito sa Fantasy Basketball PH, makita nyo sa isang post namin, number 1 na solid moves or solid acquisitions during the draft class and probably even in the free agency ang Philadelphia. Bakit? Isa sa mga reason tong si Tyrus Maxi. Tyrus Maxi is a legit scorer. Might be streaky, pero at least he is very confident in scoring. Jumpers and trays, which will definitely complement Ben Simmons. Kaya malaki ang potential na magkaroon siya ng value in the future. Probably a perfect fit para kay Ben Simmons. Next would be Patrick Williams. medyo medyo natawa ako dito sa pick na ito. Natawa in a sense na hindi ko naman sinasabing bust siya, pero medyo raw kasi siya, eh. I think he is the second youngest among all of the draftees. So, para i-pick mo siya ng gano'ng kataas na tapos madami pang available na solid na picks, nagulat talaga ako. Sobrang nagulat ako dito sa Chicago Bulls. Okay naman yung expectation or positioning niya sa Chicago Bulls kasi Otto Porter lang yung kalaban niya and looking at it, hindi ko sure kung ano yung plano ng Chicago Bulls kay Otto Porter. Pero given na nag-invest sa kanyang Bulls tapos wala na si Boylen sa Bulls, projection would be malamang Patrick Williams could be one of the plans alongside Kobe White para sa future ng Bulls. Kaya feeling ko he deserves to be in this honorable mention. Next would be Cole Anthony. Si Cole Anthony, isa 'to sa mga sikat na prospect this draft class kasi ang dami niyang YouTube videos, ang dami niyang experience with other NBA stars. Kaso medyo maliit kasi siya, eh. Compared to other guards, medyo hindi siya yung kasama sa cream of the crop na sinasabi natin. At least for this draft class. Given na hindi pa gano'n kalalim 'tong draft class na 'to. Kaya siguro bumaba ang draft draft value ni Cole Anthony. Swerte lang niya napunta siya sa Orlando. Eh, ang Orlando kailangan ng backcourt kasama ni Markelle Fultz. So, jackpot because Cole Anthony is a scorer, decent in playmaking, so-so in defense, perfect fit para kay Markelle Fultz na isa sa mga naging questionable picks way back pero nakapag-bounce back naman si Fultz, 'di ba? So I think Orlando, wala namang ibang pupuntahan Orlando kundi to move forward away from their current lineup. So possibly si Cole Anthony isa na siya sa mga future pieces ng Orlando Magic. So tapos na tayo sa mga honorable mentions natin. Let's now go to the top 10.
Number 10.
Devin Vassell from the San Antonio Spurs. Sobrang saya ko kasi Spurs fan ako. Nalaglag papunta sa kamay namin kasi para sa akin hindi si Okoro yung pinaka-highest defensive prospect sa class na to. I really do believe it's Devin Vassell just because mas kompleto si Devin Vassell. May offensive game siya compared ka sa kay Okoro. Ang dahilan lang kaya siya bumaksak sa draft value kasi hindi siya kilala eh. During high school, hindi naman siya isa sa mga top prospects. Pero similar on how Spurs develop their youngs, etong si Devin Vassell, sabi ng aso namin na tumatahol, nagawa niyang ipakita yung improvement starting from high school to the point na maging top prospect nga siya for this draft class. So, ibig sabihin, in just a few years, kaya niya mag-improve ng ganun. Napakabata pa nito. With, I think, he's 6'7" with 7 feet wingspan that plays 3 and D. So, in this type of NBA dynamics, I think sobrang taas ng value niya. Might be a Kawhi prototype 2.0. So, luckily for us, sa Spurs, GSG. So, if you're drafting in Dynasty format, monitor nyo to. Kasi I think in konting taon na lang, yung positionless roster na goal ng Spurs, may implement na yan. And with DeJounte, White, Keldon, plus Vassell, sobrang solid nung sticky backcourt defense nila. With the wing pa. Tapos meron kang spark plug na Lonnie Walker. And then you have stretch for siguro it's either kumuha sila ng bago sa 4 kasi butas din nila yon. Pero si Lucas Samanic andyan naman. Plus kaya nila ni-renew si Eubanks saka si Portal kasi sila yung kumukumpleto talaga dito sa future ng Spurs. So again, if you're something or someone na merong dynasty format, silip-silipin niyo si Devin Vassell. I think mataas ang value niya in the near future. Next natin,
Number 9.
si Poku, Alexej Pokusevski from the OKC. My favorite dark horse. Kasi siya si Mr. One of One. 7-footer, 7'3" wingspan, plays like a guard. Tumitira ng tres, pumapasa, pero bumablock din. Saan ka pa? Kaya nga ang OKC, bago pa mapunta sa Dallas na talagang tinatarget si Poku, gumawa na ng trade. Ganun ka-high ang OKC dito kay Poku. Ang tanong, bakit bumaba yung draft stock niya? Isa lang ang dahilan. Kasi 200 pounds lang siya. Hindi to pwedeng tumira sa Pilipinas kasi pag bumagyo baka lipa din. So yun yung malaking naging issue ng draft value niya. Pero he is someone with low risk, high reward. So definitely a dark horse on this draft class in reality and in fantasy. So makukuha mo to definitely in the late rounds of a dynasty format. So I think pwede tayong sumugal dito kay Poku. Magiging solid to, especially na dinala na siya ng OKC as early as now. So baka magkaroon na agad siya ng value even sa redraft format. possibly late this season. Tapos, he has all of the time in the world para mag-develop at mag-improve kasi nasa OKC siya. Kasama ng milyon-milyong picks ng OKC. So yan, si Poku, number 9. Next,
Number 8.
ang paborito ng lahat, Obi Toppin. Nako, kahit si Yahoo paborito to kasi siya yung pinakamataas na ADP. In reality and in fantasy, maraming high kay Toppin. Puwera lang sa akin. I mean, don't get me wrong, I really like Obi's storyline, athleticism. Kaso, ewan ko ba sa New York? Ano bang ginagawa ng New York? Meron pa silang Julius Randle. Tapos, ang tagal-tagal na, posibleng ngayon palang magkaroon ng breakout season si Mitch Robinson. And then, ang taas nung pick nila, no offense dito kay Obi Toppin, pinalagpas nila yung mismong position na kailangan nila, which is a point guard. May chance sila na pick up si Halliburton, pero hindi nila nagawa. So, nako, ano ba? Hindi ko alam kung anong pinagagagawa ng New York. Though, athletic to, he can be a Blake Griffin 2.0, he can stretch the floor, he can score, he can rebound. So, maybe magkaroon siya ng value. Definitely not a top value, pero baka nga naman totoo yung pinoproject ng Yahoo. But for me, guys, I am really not super high on him. Definitely okay siya sa akin kasi kasama siya sa top 10, pero not as high as like most of the basketball analysts or even fans.
Number 7.
Eto na. Ito ang value. Kira Lewis Jr. ng New Orleans Pelicans. Magiging solid siya for sure in the future kasi wala na si Drew sa Pelicans. And then I thought si Bledsoe malamang hindi naman part ng future yan ng Pelicans kaya malaking butas yung kaya niyang punan. Especially na scorer type siya. Probably siya yung isa sa pinakamabilis or baka siya na nga yung pinakamabilis na guard sa draft class na to. So, on how Pelicans runs their plays, plus Lonzo, na mas okay as off-ball kasi yun yung laro niya at malaki siya. So, feeling ko may future tong backcourt ni Kira Lewis sa ni Lonzo Ball. And I think magugustuhan na ka-partner to ni Zion kasi mabilis to. Magiging masaya ang New Orleans Pelicans with Kira Lewis. So, definitely one of the guards that you should have an eye if you're drafting in Dynasty. In Fantasy, not so okay this season kasi andyan pa si Bledsoe. So, maybe sa dulo ng game, ng season, pero as of the moment, hindi muna.
Number 6.
Ito na yung problema. Bakit nandito si Anthony Edwards? Number 1 pick to. Well, personally, hindi kasi ako masyado believe kay Anthony Edwards kasi ang binibigay niya sa table is similar to what Russell Westbrook brings. Super athleticism, super scorer. Kaso, they both can't play off ball. At least, bata pa to si Edwards, so baka ma-develop niya. So, yun yung isa sa naging problema ko para maging high ako kay Edwards. Plus, despite all of the super legit na background niya, napunta siya sa Minnesota na kumuha naman ng madaming guard. Hindi ko alam sa Minnesota, medyo palpak na naman yung diskarte nila. Kasi ang perfect position kay Edwards is number 2. Pero kinuha nila, sinide nila si Beasley for 3 years, I guess. And then, ilang millions din yun. So, definitely, kailangan nilang gamitin yun. Tapos, kinuha din nila si Rubio. So, if you'll ask me, ang best starting lineup nila would be Rubio, then D'Lo, and then possibly to si Edwards off the bench. So, yun yung tanong. So, para makakuha ka ng mataas na value, I mean, you're drafting number one pick for a six-man, it's really a questionable move by Minnesota unless they have a different plan doon sa pinoproject kong mangyayari. So, as of the moment, dahil andyan lahat, pwera lang yung opportunity, saka at least for now, yung basketball IQ, saka yung off-ball presence niya, lagay muna natin siya sa number 6 kasi um, things aren't going his way para makapag-provide ng value, especially in fantasy. I don't think tatargetin ko siya sa fantasy. Even in Dynasty kasi medyo magulo eh yung roster ng Minnesota ngayon, especially sa backcourt. At hindi pa natin pinag-uusapan yung agawan ng usage, especially with Cat in the anchor. So talagang magiging problema yung magiging stats na ma-o-offer ni Edwards. So hopefully maging okay lahat kasi gifted naman tong batang 'to eh. So kailangan lang siyang ma-develop saka magkaroon ng opportunity. Ayun, pupunta na tayo sa top 5.
Number 5.
Tyrus Halliburton. Nabanggit ko na kanina 'yan, ang dapat kinuha ng New York Knicks. Pero jackpot ang Sacramento dito. Sobrang jackpot. Someone who can score, someone who has a height, someone who can defend, someone with high IQ and playmaking skills for a guard. Nalaglag sa kamay mo. Jackpot. Sacramento. Tapos kaka-sign lang nila kay Fox. Saktong-sakto, si Tyrese Halliburton, kaya niya maglaro ng off ball. So, I think it's a perfect fit para sa Sacramento. And I do believe na one of the reason kaya hindi na sinign ng Sacramento si Bogdan dahil napulot nila or bumaksak sa lap nila itong si Halliburton, which is a very, very good prospect. Possibly para sa akin top 3 skill-wise and all-star potential-wise sa lahat ng na-draft this 2020, Tyrese Halliburton, I think nasa top 3 talaga siya. In terms of dynasty format, kunin nyo 'to kasi he'll be the future tandem nitong si De'Aaron Fox kasi for the longest time butas talaga ng ano eh ng Sacramento ang number 2 guy nila dahil hindi nagwo-work lahat ng ginagawa nila. Buddy Hield was an experiment na I think hindi naging okay for both parties. So in the future, I think aalis na to si Buddy Hield and lalong tataas ang value ni Halliburton.
Number 4.
Eto ang solid. Onyeka Okongwu. May may favorite big man sa draft class. Definitely the best big man sa draft class as well. Question is, would this turn into a fantasy value? In reality, I'm pretty sure it's gonna be okay. In fantasy, hindi pa natin alam. Pero either or, nakadepende ngayon yan sa move ni Atlanta. Kasi meron pa silang Clint Capela at meron pa silang Collins. So unless they move either of those two, saka lang magkakaroon ng value to si Okongwu. I see him as a BAM 2.0 and I'm hoping na mangyayari din sa kanya is yung BAM 2.0 wherein nag-umpisa as backup and then nawala si Whiteside tapos nabigyan na ng chance. So maybe ganun ang mangyayari kay Okongwu. Maybe si Capela, especially sa type ng laro niya, ma-move na or ma-deal na siya in the nearest future and then mapakawalan na ng Atlanta tong si Okongwu kasi sobrang solid niya. Unlike James Weissman, kaya niyang dumepensa outside of the paint area. Hindi siya mahihirapan basta-basta. He reads pick and roll very well. Good catcher siya, good feet, agile para sa big man, soft touch. So, I mean, andun na lahat eh. Kailangan mo na lang i-develop. especially na ang Atlanta is really investing in their team. So in dynasty drafts or in dynasty formats, go for Okongwu. Maybe not as early as this season, pero in the future for sure, sobrang may chance na maging Bam Adebayo to. In redrafts, wala muna siyang value this season eh. So, maybe hintay-hintayin nyo, baka ma-injury either Collins or Capella. So, siya yung handcuff. Pero, in the initial draft, I don't think may value siya sa redraft.
Number 3.
James Weissman. Wow. Hindi ako masyado masaya sa pick na to ng GSW kasi I really think if you're drafting for the top 3 to 5 picks, unless sobrang solid na big man siya with superstar potential, gamitin mo yung picks mo doon. Posibleng yun si Weissman. Pero kasi for me, na-outweigh nung risk yung value. So, hindi ko sinasabing weak type si Weissman. Sinasabi ko lang, medyo mataas yung risk na mag-bust siya compared sa mag-bloom siya. So, nakakatakot para maging top 3 pick ko. Especially GSW na kailangan na talaga nila ng tulong dahil medyo sabaw sila last season. Tapos recently, na-injured pa si Klay Thompson. So, tingnan natin. Pero okay pa rin naman siya na prospect for dynasty formats. Undeniable yung athleticism niya sa yung may offer niya. Though, at least for this season, medyo questionable pa kasi Marquez Chris did a great job last season. And then, kailangan maghabol or maghapit ng GSW. And I don't think he is a type of rookie na game na agad. So, tingnan natin as season goes by, possibly na maging okay din tong si Weissman. Pero as of now, at least personally, medyo magiging conservative ang approach ko kay James Weissman. Pero in general, yeah, definitely a good prospect. Ngayon, let's go to my favorite.
Number 2.
Killian Hayes. Wow. Jackpot ang Detroit. Ang nag-iisang tamang ginawa ng Detroit this season is itong kunin tong si Killian Hayes. Actually, hindi nila kinuha eh. Sinuwerte lang sila. Napunta sa kanila. Some bold prediction mula kay Papi Roy, I think he'll be the rookie of the year this season. Kasi sobrang saktong-sakto siya doon sa kailangan ng Detroit. Kailangan ng backcourt ng Detroit, especially wala na silang backcourt. Itong si Killian Hayes is a hardened type player. Pull-ups, step-backs, playmaking, plus defense pa, plus experience from Eurocup and France. Sobrang solid. Sobrang solid din dito Killian Hayes. I think sobrang pag-aagawan to sa Dynasty draft. Dynasty format. And in redraft, may value na agad na mabibigay to sa Killian Hayes. Pero syempre, dahil rookie yan, i-expect nyo na medyo mataas ang turnovers or mababa ang field goal percentage. Especially, banggitin ko lang yung isang issue sa kanya ng scouts ng NBA kaya bumaba yung stock niya kasi dominant lefty siya. So, usually ng mga drives niya kahit solid, unidirectional. So, maybe it's something na hindi mag-work sa NBA level kaya hindi siya kinuha ng mga scouts. So, well, undeniable yung kanyang background, yung kanyang resume. And I do believe kaya pang i-develop yun kasi batang-bata pa to. Kaya yeah, I firmly think na Killian Hayes deserve to be the number 2 in this ranking. And then, feel ko talaga magiging rookie of the year siya. At syempre, last but not the least,
Number 1.
number 1, LaMelo Ball. Possibly makabawi na si MJ sa drought ng Charlotte. Baka ito na yung pick na inaantay niya out of the Kwame Browns, MKGs. Ito na yun. Um, Sabi ni Lavar, mas magaling daw to kay Lonzo. So, at least if Lavar is 70 or 80% accurate, then MJ really got something in LaMelo Ball. 6'7", can shoot anywhere, a triple-double threat, at kaya na rin niya agad magkaroon ng value as early as this season. Kahit yung aso namin, sumasang-ayon dyan. So, yeah, I think LaMelo Ball is number one. And I really do think na siya yung pinaka-skilled dito sa draft class na to. Siya yung pinaka-NBA ready sa draft class na to. And could have, he was my number one pick. Pero, okay na rin naman. Yung tatlo naman could be, like, be pick either or. Pero, in any sequence, in their case. Pero personally, if ako yung magrarank, I would have picked Lamelo at number 1, Killian Hayes at number 2. Number 3 would be Okongwu. Possibly number 4 would be Halliburton. And then number 5 would be, saka ko lang siguro kukunin si Weissman. So, nonetheless, Charlotte has something with Lamelo. Even though andyan si Hayward na baka maka-impede sa stats niya, feeling ko makakatulong yun kasi at least yung pressure wala. And then may mag-guide sa kanila na vet. And then, andyan pa si Jordan. Possibly his best pick for the longest time. So, isa na lang ang kailangan gawin nila Melo. Kailangan na lang niyang patunayan na lahat ng scouts, lahat ng balita ay totoo. So, that's our number 1, LaMelo Ball. Ngayon, before we end this episode, I'll just do a quick recap. This is for our listeners internationally. So I'll do it in pure English. Padugo ng ilong. So quick recap. So for the international listeners, this is for you. Again, going back, we have some honorable mentions. Deni Avdia for Washington Wizards. The reason why he's not in my top 10 because Rue is still there in Washington, and then I think it's a big hurdle for him, but because they play similar position. Also, Danny Avdia is highly touted for his playmaking skills, but he doesn't offer that much in offense and in defense. He's just a decent guy, so he still can improve. I'm pretty sure of that. But as of the moment, with the lack of possible minutes, I don't think he'll have initial impact. So that's why he's in the honorable mentions because I do believe he has potential, but in the circumstances that he has in Washington, he is not in my top 10. Now, we'll go to Isaac Okoro. Compared to Denny, he has the perfect position in the only solid 3 in the Cavs lineup aside from Cedi Osman. But given that he's highly touted as the best defender, I think he has a big role in the future of the Cavs. Thing is, Okoro doesn't have offense in his arsenal. For 40 minutes, he only can provide 16 points. So that's gonna be a big problem in terms of reality and in terms of fantasy. So I'll be holding my horses for Okoro here. Then we have Tyrus Maxi, a perfect fit in Philly. Possible running mate of Ben Simmons, someone who could score, someone who could stretch the floor, a very confident dude. So Philly got a gold mine with Maxi. Definitely he's better than Shake Milton. I can assure you that. So he has a very great future in the Philly. Hope it will materialize. Chicago, wow. they really, really did reach for Patrick Williams. He is very promising, but I think he's very raw. He's actually the second youngest among all of the draftees, and he doesn't have any special value that could bring in the table aside for the the upside, the promise, because physically he has it, and then play wise he kind of have it, but he haven't proved that in college basketball at least. So that's the reason why I'm kind of iffy with Patrick Williams. But then again, Chicago is high on him. Maybe he could be the forward of their future. Looking at it, they're moving away from Otto Porter. So in due time, probably Patrick Williams could be someone that Chicago will be building alongside Kobe White. So let's see. Orlando Magic has this guy named Paul Anthony, a very solid guard who scores, who plays hard. He was very popular in the YouTube and college videos, but was falling in the draft because he's quite small, and then he doesn't, compared to the likes of Halliburton and Kira Lewis, is not as good as them. So that's the reason why he fell off. But then again, Orlando needed someone that could be a partner for Markel Fultz. So with that said, I guess Cole Anthony could be the backcourt of the future for Orlando, and then any positive usage could definitely bring some stats, which is good for fantasy. So I guess if you're drafting in a dynasty format, it's safe to say that Cole Anthony has a sure value in the future. Let's now go to our top 10. Number 10 would be Devin Vassell from San Antonio Spurs. A legit 3 and D guy. Compared to Okoro, he has some offense, some upside, a 6'7" with 7 feet reach. So probably a Kawhi 2.0. So for all dynasty formats, keep an eye on Devin Vassell. He's part of the main pieces in the San Antonio future. Number 9 would be Poku, Alexej Pokusevsky, Mr. One of One. A 7-footer with a guard skill. So what can I say? The dark horse of this fantasy class. I mean, in this draft class. So even my dogs are agreeing this one is very good, unless he'll be this thin in the future, because he's only 200 pounds, so he needs to buff up. Luckily for him, he's in OKC. He has all the time in the world to develop. So the future is looking good for Poku. Number 8 would be Obi Toppin. Toppin is the favorite of maybe all fans, and even the Yahoo, because in Yahoo ADP, Toppin trumps all of the rookies. So he's the highest. He got the highest ADP for all rookies, even for Killian Hayes and Lamelo Ball or Edwards or Weissman. So maybe Yahoo is very high on Toppin, same as all of the fans. Unfortunately, not me, because they have Julius Randle. This dude is old. As much as I like him, imagine Jason Tatum is just a day older than him. So I mean, his clock is ticking. So um, hope he can rise up in the occasion, despite the pressure. But in fantasy wise, he offers a Griffin type offense. Rebounds, can stretch the floor, points. Other than that, it's quite iffy, I guess, because he hasn't proved to be a great defender. He has some blocks and steals, but it doesn't mean you're a great defender. So hope it translates in NBA. Hope he gets some time with Julius Randle on his side. So still a good guy, still a good prospect, but I'm not super high on him. Number 7, Kira Lewis Jr. This one is a good pick by the Pelicans because they just dealt Juru to the Milwaukee Bucks. I don't think Bledsoe is their future guard. So Kira Lewis would be playing alongside Lonzo. He's the quickest among all of the guards in this draft class. Lonzo can play off ball. Kira can play off ball. Lonzo is big as well. So I guess if they get some meshing up, Pelicans will be a fun team to watch. They're gonna be fast, especially with Zion and Kira and Lonzo. Now at number 6, Anthony Edwards. He's the number 1 pick, but well, I'm kinda not high on him. It's like a Westbrook 2.0 with no off-ball potential. It's a very big question if he can play off-ball. Given that Minnesota got Rubio back, possibly D'Lo playing at 2, they signed Beasley for a couple of years. So I'm now really, really thinking that Edwards' value is a potential bust. Hopefully not, because he's really a good player. Not a dynamic player, but a really good player. So as at least for now, he's in our top 6. Number 5 is Halliburton, possibly the one of the readiest guards in this draft class, top 3, I guess. York should have drafted him, but well, they got Obi Toppin. Sacramento is very lucky because they have now some running partner with De'Aaron Fox. Halliburton can play off ball. He's big for a guard. He can play defense, high percentage in shooting, and then he has some playmaking skills. So Sacramento get really, really lucky, and that's the reason why they parted ways with Bogdan, I guess, because they have Halliburton in their future. Next would be Onyeka Okongwu at number 4, possible bomb 2.0, but this won't happen unless Capella or Collins gets dealt away from Atlanta. Maybe the similar story that happened with Whiteside and Bam could happen with Capella or Collins and Okongwu. But I do believe Okongwu was the best center in this draft. He has great um defensive IQ. He can actually defend outside of the paint. He can defend E3 or 4, at least agile for his position. Soft touch, quick feet, good hands. So definitely a great prospect of the future. At number 3 would be James Weissman. Not super high on him, but JSW got him. The risks are just too big for me, at least personally, given the small amount of um, reference for his playing capabilities. So it's too risky, especially now that NBA is it's not the big men's league. It's not 1995 anymore. So hope it works. I just think he's a great player, but for to be picked with high risk is just not for me, I guess. So hope he can help the GSW because GSW really needs help. But fantasy wise, I think Marcus Chris will still start because he played really well last season, and then GSW wanted someone who could immediately impact the team. Hence, they signed someone like Bazemore because Bazemore knew how JSW works. So looking at it, maybe they will still start Marcus Chris, give him like 20 to 25 minutes, and then James Wiseman can like play from the bench. And if he proves that he's the real thing, then he can overtake he can overtake the starting center for the JSW. But most importantly, he'll be the part of the future of the GSW. Especially now that seems like the golden era is starting to fizzle. Um, Thompson getting hurt, Curry and Draymond aging. So yeah, hopefully James Weissman is the answer. Number two, my favorite one. My bold prediction: Killian Hayes wins the Rookie of the Year. Detroit got very lucky with him. Probably he's the only good pick that Detroit did this free agency and this draft season. So hopefully for Killian Hayes, he'll get all the opportunity he can get in Detroit. Especially that they don't have any backcourts. Derrick Rose probably will get traded. They have a young complement with Dylan Wright. He's a hardened type guard. He can score. He can do step backs, pull up. He can do defense. He has a great resume. He played in France, in Eurocup. Thing is, he's a one-sided driver player, meaning he usually goes on to his left when he drives. So hopefully it won't be a big trouble for the NBA level because if he'll get predictable, then it's a big problem for Detroit. But in general, I'm really high on Killian Hayes. In Dynasty format, well, definitely pick this dude. In redraft, he already have value in the late round. So go ahead. I'm telling you, Killian Hayes is good. And then number one, LaMelo Ball. We can't deny 6'7" for a guard. Can shoot anywhere. Weird international experience, but still an international experience. So I guess he's pro ready. At least 80% of what LaVar Ball is saying is true. Then Michael Jordan got some really, really good pick finally. So that's it for this episode. Again, I really created a space for our international listeners. So I spoke in English for quite some minutes for a recap. But in the future, we'll be doing this structure. Tapos, if there are any comments, I'll be reading them bago tayo matapos. Dugo ilong eh. Next episode natin, guys, would be depth charts and free agency movement review for all 30 teams. Kaya solid yan. Makakatulong yan kasi malapit na eh. Isang buwan na lang. Umpisa ng NBA. So, less than a month, kailangan nyo na mag-draft. So, matutulungan kayo ng Fantasy Basketball PH para makakuha ng idea kung sino ang idadraft nyo. And that's it. Maraming salamat, guys. This is your host, Papi Roy, from the Fantasy Basketball PH. We are available in YouTube, Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. So, supportahan po natin. This is a fantasy basketball experience. And we also discuss NBA or basketball in general with a Pinoy flavor. Yun ang pagkakaiba natin. Pinoy pride. So, hope you like our first episode. If you have any comments or suggestions, please do comment or tell us. Send an email, send a message. Just search us in our Facebook page, Fantasy Basketball PH. Salamat. Bye-bye.